I do have to look at like the facts. Like, why am I not selling that? And it's oftentimes because the reaction you're getting back from your customer is, wow, that's more than I thought. And so, all right, dude, we're back. We are back with a small, shorty little episode here. How you doing, man?
Shorty. Good.
Shorty, drywall shorty episode. No, she's not on as a guest. Anybody listening? Oh, man. Another rocky start. This is my favorite. I like it. I like to get all awkward and weird when we're getting started so I can then go right into saying, hey, everybody, welcome to the Make Trades Great Again podcast.
There we are. Get the awkward out early.
Yeah. We just got to get
about.
Yeah, we're all awkward here. Andy, we talked recently about kind of looking forward, looking back, and we focused on you, Mickelson Plumbing and Heating, for 2023 into 2024. And it's that time of year. No resolutions, just looking back, looking forward, kind of recapping.
Right.
And I guess today is my turn.
It's your turn.
Okay.
Let's hear it. I mean, I don't know. What was 20? How did 23 turn out for you?
Not all roses. Not all roses.
Yeah.
Well, on the Aune Plumbing side, Mechanical Hub, phenomenal. Biggest business we ever had. On the Aune Plumbing and Heating side, though, believe it or not, I was down a little bit. And so I started looking into things and, reporting and looking at everything. I was on QuickBooks, on House Call Pro, and I'm trying to figure out, like, why are my numbers down?
Right.
And I didn't do the same amount of jobs, but on the high-end jobs, my prices, my margins were better, and the cost of the jobs were higher.
Right.
But on the lower end, the bulk of the jobs, that service category where I spend most of my year at for Aune Plumbing, the average ticket price was down.
Interesting.
And it was down just, honestly, the average was like in 2022, if I'm just going to put a number on it, it's not accurate, but the average was like 1,500.
Sure.
And then the average in comparison was down about 10%. So 150 to $200 depending on, and it's an average. So it's over many hundreds of invoices. And so when it's that way, when you're down, at that 10% mark or so, at the end of the year, you look and the numbers are significantly different.
Yeah.
And when you're a one-man show like me, it's easy it's easier to see just like exactly what was going on because I don't have invoices and income coming in from multiple different trucks. Like one truck isn't going to be more effective than the other because it's just my truck, that kind of thing. Look, I'm not upset. I'm just not. I wish it wasn't true. But trying to understand this is really the toughest part, just trying to parse out, like, why were my average tickets lower? Was it the type of calls that were coming in, or what did I fail on the, the suggestion of the upgrade and then closing the sale on that upgrade, that kind of thing. And I started to see more and more of the upgrade kind of a really good example that we can easily talk about, instead of tank replacement for water heater, the tankless as an upgrade, right? And so less and less of those were not less and less. I was closing less of those than I was just the simple replacement. And I have a theory as why that is. I don't necessarily think it's as much on me, although I could do some things to improve my techniques and my presentation and probably increase my closing rate for that. But ultimately, the fact is I had lost more of those proposals on that high end, and I was selling in that middle. If I gave them a good, better, best. I was selling the better and not the best as much or as often as I was the year prior. And I have a theory as why that is, but I don't know. It's a little frustrating.
It's interesting to look at that stuff, and I'll do that. And I'm probably not a very responsible business owner on that aspect, because reports are one of those things that I look at and I go, huh, yeah, okay. There's some data there, and then I'm like, I don't have time to squirrel away in that. But and that's where I say I'm not very responsible, because I really should be
Paying
very
closer
up to
attention.
speed on that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges, and you can probably attest to this, is that between the two softwares that we use, the reports don't always jive. And so it's like having two finely tuned thermostats or thermometers, and they give you a different reading for the same thing that you're measuring, and you go, well, which one's right?
Well,
And-
yeah. I think I know why, though. Maybe the simple
Yeah.
explanation as to why they don't always match up or look the same is because while our QuickBooks is connected to our HouseCal Pro, our HouseCal Pro is really only looking at what we're inputting into it.
Exactly.
I'm not job costing on my HouseCal Pro.
Sure.
I'm just not.
I'm not really either.
So that's taken care of on the other side, which I'm not seeing on the same report when I look at like what my average ticket price is, and then what were my sales, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although I know those are two very different things, but that's why I think we're just not inputting the same amount of information into them. That's a whole discussion, though, like just the software and how to use it. But yeah, so I mean, looking back, I'm not negative. I don't love this, like I said already. I'm not excited.
Right.
I'm not like just okay with it. But I'm also I can't. I'm not gonna dwell on it. I saw it coming in the fall when things were a lot slower. So two things why I think my why I wasn't closing on the upgrades on the larger ticket items
Sure.
is in 2022 to end of 2022, we saw our annual price increases started happening a little earlier last year, 2023.
Okay.
I think we ended 2022 with what we were considering an all-time high cost of all of our goods and materials, right? In fact, you were paying higher labor costs than you probably would have anticipated a couple of years prior. All this to do with, as things get shorter and shorter, we're paying more and more. Now, COVID affected our material costs for a lot of different reasons. Demand was up, but also the delivery wasn't happening. So then now the cost was going up based off of deliverable. Like, you know what I'm saying? Supply chain issues. We didn't have the supply chain issues like we did in 2022. We didn't see them in 2023. But we saw price increases a lot earlier in the year. At least I did on my end. I got the notifications just like you do, and just like people listening to us every year. Our suppliers, our salespeople they start emailing, hey, there's a price increase coming on this date, a month from now.
Right.
Just heads up. I don't want you, freaking out. That's kind of the conversation that starts on. That was like week 2 of January. And usually we don't even start seeing those price increases till February, March, sometimes April. I started seeing them in January, just like everybody else did, because I didn't start paying more for water heaters in January, and you didn't have to until April. You know what I mean? It was right on nationwide. So my point is this: I think my higher ticket items that I wasn't selling the upsell to, that I was losing out on, was more attributed, in my opinion, to the fact that even the middle of the road was higher. Everything was higher.
Everything.
And so now when I look at a water heater replacement, you'd think that after 20 years of doing this on my own, this is my 20th year. It says so right on my coffee cup. 2004.
Right,
says it right there, so it must be real. In 20 years, I would have never thought a water heater replacement would cost more than $3,000.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredibly blows my mind still to this day. And I write out the quotes all the time, and I'm like, this has got to be wrong. I mean, our costs, we share the same pricing.
Sure.
On a 50-gallon power vent, like, are you kidding me? I'm buying them for more than I used to install them for.
Yeah. The last couple times I've priced out the power vent, they're more expensive than a tankless.
Yeah, they are.
By $400.
It's absolutely incredible. And so that's where I'm not trying to like use it as an excuse. Like, oh, sales were down. I'm looking at this and this is what I'm coming up with. Now, could an expert come in and look at what I'm doing in my business day to day and make improvements?
Yeah.
100%. Yes. Yes.
Right.
And am I not implementing some things that I said other people should be doing? Yeah, of course. I'm falling short in all kinds of areas.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Except I do have to look at like the facts. Like, why am I not selling that? And it's oftentimes because the reaction you're getting back from your customer is, wow, that's more than I thought. And so, couple things. So looking forward. So I'm not going to dwell on the past. That's just my explanation of it. The overall expenses were higher in the business just all year long. We didn't even really start to see any opportunity for any kind of like day-to-day expense savings until we started seeing like price of oil started dropping. So now like fuel costs are down a little bit. It's significant. It really is. It adds up for sure, especially when you have, 4 vehicles on the road daily for the plumbing business. Yeah. I'm imagining that I could just take my costs and multiply by probably 3.5 to 4, and that's what you're paying.
Pretty close.
And and so even when I was seeing savings of 10-15% fuel costs, that it adds up. It's nice. But people's costs were with inflation were killing. It took a little while for it to really catch up. And I think it affected my customer, like the type of customer I'm dealing with on a regular basis with those lower ticket items, just those reactionary service call kind of jobs. Mm-hmm. People didn't have the same amount of money that they had the year prior. They just didn't. Everything was more. Well, it was killing them in every aspect.
Yeah, and I think I think part of what we're seeing there too, like you say, you see the inflationary side of it, you see the interest rate side of it. Where previously with a really low interest rate, it was easier for a customer to go get financing for something and have that financing come back at, oh, well, we're going to pay 10% or we're going to pay 12% for interest on this, this home equity line of credit or whatever.
Yeah.
And go, okay, we can do that for 18 months and we'll pay off the furnace install over the next 18 months and it'll be fine. And when they went to go get that same style of home equity line of credit and it was 24 or 26% APY.
Now we're pumping the brakes.
Holy cow.
Yep. Now it's pump the brakes. We're not sure we're going to do this.
Yeah. And I think that's been I've seen it. I've had a handful of people ask me, and we've never traditionally offered financing. And I've looked into it a couple of times, and I keep going back to the same thing that, like almost all of the financing programs that I've looked at had this really absorbently high rate. And I get it. It's an unsecured loan. Everybody's got to make money in the whole deal. Yeah. But it comes down to that point where I think a lot of them were charging me 5 to 6% of the financed amount as the contractor. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I'm getting charged 6% and you're charging the homeowner 24%?
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up. The financing too, it could be, absolutely. It's directly related to that, how jobs were closing or not. So looking forward on my 2024, I've already started, I believe I've figured out what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the financing that's directly attached and already embedded in our program that, house call that we're using.
Yeah.
I've been, approved as to offer it and all that kind of stuff. Which I don't think is hard. You basically just have to tell them I'm going to offer this to my customers. As I understand it, and I could be off on this a little bit, I'm not going to get into specific numbers, but as I understand it, basically my cost, the cost to us offering it as a contractor is more or less in line with the cost of offering or taking a credit card.
Right.
There is risk.
I'd be curious.
I see. Yeah. So. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And the reason why is because I want to do more of those. I did recently, over the last, let's say, 3 to 4 months, encounter more than, I think, 3 or 4 times I've had jobs not sell.
Yep.
And I asked every one of them, why is it? And they're like, well, it's more money than we thought. We can't afford it. We're going to have to do something else. And oftentimes I pry a little bit, like, is there anything else that I can be a part of to help you get this done? And sometimes people just don't have the money. Okay. If I can at least offer an avenue that keeps them talking to me and considering me to do the job, I need to do that. It seems so basic because I know some people listening and be like, well, you don't offer financing? You're an idiot. I mean, maybe not an idiot, but you know what I mean? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try it. I'm hopeful that it will at least keep me in the conversation on those jobs where people are just, they're stuck because they're not comfortable pulling the money together in other avenues. Right. Like you said, going to the bank and getting a equity line of credit it's really, maybe it's just a little more familiar than what we're going to offer them, but it's basically the same thing in a sense. But because it's their bank or something like that, maybe it'll be more comfortable. And look, that's still always on the table.
That's still an offer. Yeah.
I just want to
still options.
Right. I just don't want to stand in front of the customer that I'm telling with total regard of their, situation. You need a new heating system. You just do. Like, I don't get to that point until it's at that point. I will fix, as you know, I will fix things.
Right.
I won't replace simply because I'm going to make more money or anything like that. But it's those jobs, I think, that I lost a few of this year. Right. And had I had offered financing, it might have made a difference. I did have a couple people ask about it, and I just said, no, I don't offer it. And that's the way it goes. So that's my 2024 outlook. I'm going to do that. Look, there's rumblings of Aune Plumbing expanding, having an employee come on. It's not, it's not unlike. It's not.
It's It's not a closed door, but there's a possibility.
Right. We'll see. It just with having the other business that we're running, like with the travel and things like that. I that's what probably makes me the most nervous, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I could totally understand that, and I don't feel like. Yeah.
So there you go.
From my perspective, I don't feel like you're wrong at having that feeling or that I guess hesitation for it, because ultimately those are things that you got to look at. I mean, you're going to be responsible for somebody getting a weekly paycheck.
Yeah.
And if you can't be there to do it, to make sure that they have things to do, then that makes it really difficult.
Yeah. It's there's some things underway on how we're doing things day to day that might be able to change how managing from afar and still bringing in more work might be doable. Yep. We'll see. So there you go, dude.
All right. Well.
I'm ready to bring it on. I'm ready to bring on 2024.
Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
I got to go. I got diarrhea.
Got diarrhea already?